Hello, everybody. It's Mais Karibyan. Another episode that I prepared for all my followers. I'm very excited for today because I have a special guest. Soon I'll introduce him. And this channel is specifically focused helping people, individuals, families when it comes to their finances. My goal is to bring value and information and education so people can make better financial decisions. Now, today is special, like I said, because I'm excited to introduce my guest. First, I'm honored to say and call him friend of mine. We know each other many, many years, over 2 decades, and we grew up together in a business world. So I learned a lot of things from him, and and sometimes I have questions. I contact him to get just his opinion because that's how valuable he is in my life. He's a great family man, great husband, and also a great businessman. So it's honored for me to introduce good friend of mine, Armen Tatiyants. Armen, how are you?
I am doing great, Mais. John, thank you for having me on.
Of course.
It's an honor, and we are excited to talk a little bit about the economy,
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
and everything else that's important, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just about finance.
Yes.
So I'm excited to be here.
Cool.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Armen, I know you so many years, and every time when I get hold of you, I talk to you. We always have a lot of things in common to talk, and we leverage each other's knowledge. And I believe having a good friendship for many, many years is very valuable. What do you say about that?
I think it's extremely important
Okay.
to have the right relationships
Yeah.
in your life.
Yep.
Right. So, for example, the other day you called me and we had a conversation
Yeah.
about something very specific.
Yeah.
And I don't think you would call somebody else, right?
Yeah.
I trust that
Yeah.
if you needed help in that area, you would call
Yeah,
me, and
yeah.
vice versa.
And that's
You're-
valuable, Armen. I'm telling you, and I wish people understand how valuable good friendships are.
100%, 100%, and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So for me, there are certain topics that if I needed some advice
Yeah.
on, and there's no incentive
Yeah.
on the line, I
Yeah.
know I can ask you, and you're going to give me a black and white answer and say
Yeah.
this is good for you, or maybe not, or maybe.
Yeah.
So, 100%.
Yeah.
It's friends are those people that know everything about you and still like you.
The good, the bad, and
Everything.
the ugly, right? Hey, I learned a lot of things from you. So I know today we're gonna talk about again finances, money, economy, a lot of things. But I want a little bit, give your background to the audience a little bit more. So you are a director of business development with the company called Mediator Debt Solutions. How long you been with them, and what's your main role right there? What do you do in day-to-day
So
basis?
I've been with Mediator since day one,
Uh-huh.
since inception, and I've been in the industry, significantly longer.
Longer. Uh-huh.
And my role there now, it's evolved over time, and I do focus on business development. I focus on our affiliate partnerships, people that
Mm-hmm.
we do business. A lot of them are in financial services,
Yeah.
tax industries, and now we're expanding even from that market. But it evolved, right? That
Yeah.
position evolved. I started off as a salesman. I then got into sales management, and so I understood different parts of the
So
business.
in this position, you travel a lot because every time I call you or somewhere, I'm like, let me see where is Armen.
Yes, I do travel a lot. It's a blessing, but it's also a sacrifice, as you know,
Yeah.
family man, right?
Yeah.
It's time away from families, so you got to make every minute count,
Yeah.
and you got to be present on both ends. And we've talked a little bit
Yeah,
about that
yeah.
not too long ago.
Yeah.
But just overall, it's what we're able to do today
Uh-huh.
with our company,
Yeah.
with Mediator Debt Solutions. We're able to help people in a time that they really, really need help.
Yeah.
And that is really rewarding. Like, it doesn't really feel like work. I got people
Yeah.
asking me all the time, so what part of your job do you like most? Do you like this? Do you like that?
Yeah.
Honestly, it's taking care of the people, right? Like
Yeah.
you said, helping
Yeah.
people with value,
Yeah.
with finances, with faith, with all the things the values that
Yeah.
you want to represent. So that's the part that gets me going.
Yeah. Now, Armen, economy lost probably 5, 6 years, especially after COVID. A lot of things changed. how that affects people's finances, especially when it has to do with their debt. What you learn that is different than maybe 10 years ago?
Oh boy, I mean, it's such a multifaceted
Uh-huh.
situation, right? Because there you can talk about the economy,
Yeah.
like overall,
Uh-huh.
and then you can talk about what people are feeling at the pumps in the grocery stores.
Yeah.
And the reality is that life has gotten more expensive in the last 10 years.
Is that put more fear into people?
100%. And fear does what? It makes people to pay attention a little bit
Yeah.
more,
Yeah.
whatever topic. But now
Yeah.
when you introduce finances and you introduce that uncertainty,
Yeah.
I mean, as a country, right,
Yeah.
we've gotten into more debt than
Yeah.
I think most recently we're at 36.1,
Something trillion
$1.2
dollar.
trillion dollars. Yeah.
I don't even know how many zeros is that.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a couple more,
Yeah.
So as a country, we have a lot of debt, and then a lot of that debt, right? When you look at the
Yeah.
consumer debt, it's shattered every record. And then you boil down to like the really, really people say, Armen, what's the worst kind of debt? It's the credit card debt,
Yeah.
payday loans. Like that's the worst.
Is credit card has the generally the highest interest rate?
Uh, from the reasonable market, yes. If you get into the subprime market, like somebody
Yeah.
that's in the mortgage industry or the auto industry,
Yeah.
they understand the terminology, meaning your credit score is less than great.
Yeah.
In that world, I mean,
I mean, you do a lot of debt consolidation. What's the highest interest rate you saw on a credit card?
well, there are usury laws that protects.
Yeah.
So you can get capped out right around maybe 30 to 34%.
That's
But that's
crazy.
not the shocking part. The shocking part is the payday loan companies. So what happens is we request a contract. It's part of our process, right?
Yeah.
So somebody says, "Look, I have this loan, and I got a loan for $800." Okay,
Yeah.
great. So we need to look at the paperwork because number one, we have to make sure we can take it on and make
Yeah.
sure there's no security, right? So there's
Yeah.
no
Okay.
collateral.
Okay.
And when we evaluate, when we get the paperwork, what you can find in those contracts is there are a lot of companies, subsidiaries, and a
Yeah.
lot of these organizations are like they're not on U.S. They're like on Indian reservations. So a lot of them usury laws don't apply to them. So like when you look at the interest rates,
Yeah.
the highest I've seen to answer your question is like 980%.
That's crazy.
So like imagine borrowing $400 and you promise to pay back
It's
$8
gonna
grand.
double your balance every an hour.
It shouldn't be legal, right?
Yeah.
And people that are stressed out and they're desperate, they're like, wait, you're gonna give me $400 right now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I see.
I'll take it. And they don't read the fine print.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people that have debt, I guess one of the first things they think is, okay, let me just file a BK. Now, I personally don't think that's the best solution. So, how do you come handy for somebody not to take that route because on the long run it's gonna hurt them more? How your solution brings more value in a sense, not going towards doing a bankruptcy.
So again, it's a very, very complex. Like for somebody that this is new to them, right?
Yeah.
And they might be thinking general terms of debt solution.
Yeah.
But what does that mean? If we ask 10 people, what does debt solution mean to you? Some people will say bankruptcy. Some people will say debt management.
Yeah.
Some people will say, credit card counseling, right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different avenues in that space
Yeah.
that a consumer can go through. The most common ones that are compared
Okay.
are going to be bankruptcy, are going
Okay.
to be counseling companies, and debt settlement companies,
Okay.
right? So they perform very, very different things.
Got
And
it.
how it affects the consumer and their credit,
Yeah.
it's going to be slightly different from consumer to consumer because everyone has a unique situation.
Got it.
Right.
Got it.
So, to answer your question, if somebody wanted to go the bankruptcy route,
Uh-huh.
depending on where they're starting
Okay.
today, depending on where their credit is today, will depend on my answer on how much they will be impacted.
Got it.
And the
Got it.
same goes for debt settlement.
Yeah.
which is similar type of program like ours, depending on where the consumer is today.
Got it.
And a lot of people will, they'll throw rocks at the idea. They'll say, yeah, but you're settling, so it's going to be
Affect.
negative. Your credit has a lot of variables.
Got it.
Payment history is it's only 30%. There's a lot of other categories, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have some just quick
Examples.
bullet points. Yeah.
Sure.
Your payment history is 35%. Your utilization is 30% of your credit rating. Meaning out of the amount of credit has been given to you, how much are you already using, right?
Got
so
it.
payment
That
history.
means the limit versus the current balance.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Limit versus current balance. Utilization 30%. Length of credit history is 15%. Okay, so it drops a little bit. A credit mixture. So what type of debt do you have? Do you only have 3 credit cards? Or do you have a auto loan, car loan, a finance loan from Dell?
So
right?
type of credit account
mix.
matters too.
Yes.
Got it.
And then also new credit versus inquiries. So how many accounts do you have that you opened in the last 6 months? Like so now when you factor all this in,
Yeah.
sure, a part of your credit rating can be affected negatively, but 2 or 3 parts
That's
of your
if
credit.
they settle.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
And then the same might be with bankruptcy as well.
Yeah.
Now imagine we're talking to somebody today that has depleted their 401k, that has, and I'm not saying they lost the money in the market. I'm just saying they depleted because they took money out because
Got
they
it.
couldn't pay bills.
Got it.
That's what we're seeing is happening a lot right now. People are depleting their savings, they're depleting their investments. You know, to do
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
To keep up with the credit card payments.
That's crazy.
What happens when you run out of your money? You're going to fall behind anyways. And then what? You're going to go do bankruptcy. What if you own a home? I mean, it's
Yeah.
scary, but there's so many people like that get to the end of the rope.
Yeah.
And it's sad. It's really sad. And a lot of them are a little bit older.
And people, I guess, they make wrong choices because of lack of information.
100%. 100%. Right now, if we go on the internet and we
Yeah.
talk about, a debt consolidation.
Okay.
What does that mean? Well, you're going to consolidate multiple loans into one.
Yeah.
You're going to consolidate multiple payments into one.
Yeah.
I mean, based on what you've been researching and reading,
Yeah.
you might think, oh my God, bankruptcy is the worst thing on the planet. Or you're going to say,
Yeah.
consumer credit counseling is the best thing on the planet. For who? Right? So
Got it.
that's one of the things that kind of motivates me to put out the information out there.
Yeah.
If you look at any of my content,
Yeah.
I don't sugarcoat it.
Got it.
I
You say the good and bad.
the good and the bad. The client has to understand. What I'm saying is don't wait until you deplete everything
Yeah.
and then you make a decision out of desperation. Be financially smart.
Yeah.
For example, you got a 730 FICO score
Yeah.
and you're holding on to it with your dear life, but you're paying on 80 grand of bad debt, like really, really bad
Yeah,
debt. You're
yeah, yeah,
spending
yeah, yeah.
$2,500 a month. For who? For
Got
what?
it.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but you don't understand.
Yeah.
I do understand.
Yeah,
Right? It's a decision that you got to make a sacrifice.
Mm.
And if that piece is really, really important to that client, get into a 1-year program.
Yeah.
I can't afford it. You can't have both.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I want to take the opportunity, guys, and let you guys know. As you guys can see in the screen, there is a barcode. If you scan it, it'll take to a link. And if you want to do debt consolidation, first, put your information out there, and Armen will get hold of you guys and just go over your specific scenario, because as he was explaining, each person's scenario is different. One person's solution might not be the solution for the other person. So it's very important to do a consultation first, so you give them direction, because once you see their full picture, it's much easier for you to say, you know what, for your case, this is the best option, right?
100%. I couldn't have said that better.
Yeah.
And I think that even this is a great example, right?
Yeah.
We're saying debt consolidation, right?
Okay.
Because if you say debt settlement, it means nothing to most people. They don't really even understand the term.
Yeah.
But what is debt settlement? Debt settlement is if you have a debt that you
Yeah.
owe to a creditor, that you negotiate a settlement, and they accept a lesser amount than what you originally owed. That's it.
Got it.
Right? And
Got
that's the
it.
process of debt settlement. And guess what? You can do it yourself. A lot of debt
Directly,
settlement,
just get
of
hold of
course,
got it.
a lot of debt settlement companies don't want to talk about that because it's not in their best interest. Well, guess what? One of our shared values is always do what's in the best interest of the client.
So do you tell the client in this account, maybe call them directly, or you take it everything on your hands and you guys take over from there?
It depends. It
Okay.
depends. Usually the customer wants us to take all of it because they don't want to manage any of it. And the only time they end up managing anything is the stuff that we know that we can't settle.
Got it.
So it would be counterproductive and it would be misleading for us
Got
to
it.
take on something where the
Got
client is under the impression that it will be done and it doesn't get done.
Got it.
And people say, well, what do you mean? How can I do this myself? Listen, if you got the time
Okay.
and you want to call these banks and negotiate and figure out all the requirements and guidelines and be on hold and then go through that progression, sure, you can do it if you got the time. But there are risks that come with that. And, in some cases, it might make sense for the client to take that risk. In other cases, I wouldn't recommend it.
Got it.
Why? Because during that process, the creditor can sue.
Got it.
You know how many people come to us after they get sued? Like, I'm going to do it myself. I got a phone call
Is
the
that
other
makes
day.
a case even difficult, or maybe it's
It's yes, absolutely. We figure out the risk depending on the history that we have with those creditors. I mean, we settle a lot of debt, right? Over a decade. So we have a track record.
yeah. And you know with each company how to work with them. You kind of understand each creditor is different and how to approach them.
To the point where we have conservative proposals for the customer.
Got it.
And I know, like in a life business, your returns, you could choose to use more aggressive returns and make the numbers look better, or use a conservative number.
Got it.
And it will be more realistic. In our world, we understand that if you got a bunch of high risk creditors, you're gonna have to accumulate the funds, the leverage much faster.
Got it.
So we factor all these things in. A lot of our competitors don't like to do that.
Yeah.
Why do we do that? Because when the going gets tough, when the client gets sued, we represent the client. The client doesn't have to do anything. They usually panic because nobody wants to get sued. Like, I know I don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
You don't want to get sued. But usually it's like, okay, no problem. Just send us the paperwork. We got it. Is there anything else I got to do? No, we got it. Right? It's part of the process. So there are some companies out there that their solution to that is, don't worry, it's not likely.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that.
Got it.
It's part of the business. You got to account for it and take care of the customer.
Now, Armen, one of the questions I wrote down here, how long usually does the process take as far as time-wise? You start a case, you work with somebody from day one until you finish the debt. How long usually it takes?
So the process, do you want from enrollment to graduation or from like initial interest
I
to
guess
graduation?
Introduce both scenarios, how it works. Yeah.
So if somebody that's watching this this podcast and they're like, you know what, I got some debt.
Yeah.
I actually thought about bankruptcy, but I was not sure and I have some questions. Let's just say this person decides to use the resource now through get a consultation with us.
Yes.
Excellent. So now we're going to give him a consultation. That consultation can be 30 minutes. It could be 1.5 hours.
Got it.
Are we dealing with a homeowner? Are we dealing with a homeowner that has 2 investment properties? Are we dealing with somebody that has 30 credit cards? Are we dealing with somebody that only has 2 credit? The consultation is going to vary. Why? Because for us to be able to give a good estimate, we have to understand the client's situation thoroughly.
Yeah.
And by the way, we work with a lot of companies in financial services. You know what builds our credibility the most? When we have the confidence and the integrity to tell the customer, we can't help you.
So
I get phone calls from agents all over the country saying that you're not going to believe this. I spoke to a client of mine. You guys couldn't help them. And it was an interesting experience for the customer because they're saying, these guys actually, like, they weren't trying to just sign me up. And I said, yeah, that's not what we do. We help people get out of debt.
So if it doesn't make sense for them to take the route, you'll tell them.
Exactly. And that's what I pride my reputation on.
Yeah.
The right thing is always going to be the right thing.
Yeah.
I've gotten in trouble telling the truth sometimes. In fact, the one thing I'm teaching my son right now is, hey, what is the most important quality?
Say the
He
truth.
says honesty.
Honesty,
And then
yeah.
I'll follow up and be like, well, what does that mean? He says it means always telling the truth. It's
Nice.
the way I was raised. It's so important
Yeah,
in business.
yeah.
Eventually,
Of
people are gonna
course.
know what your reputation is, right?
Absolutely. And the more honest way business you do, you get so much referrals and more reputation coming back, repeat clients. So, Armen, do you guys run a credit when you start the process to see the current situation?
Yes.
Okay.
We do a soft credit check.
Okay.
And that's the first step in anything.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people that ask me very specific questions about credit, payments.
Yeah.
Yeah, your payments could go down up to 40%. Your debt can go down up to 20 to 30%,
Okay.
to 50%. But until we check the credit, until we verify who you owe the money to, how much,
Okay.
what are the circumstances, is it current, is it delinquent, is it maxed out, is it not? Do you have assets,
Yeah.
right?
Got
Are
it.
you a BK candidate also? What's the leverage like? Until we figure all that out, how can I give you a payment? That would
Got
be
it.
irresponsible of me.
Got it. Now, I guess my next question follows what you just explained. What type of debt you take in? Credit card, understand, is auto loan or student loan or any other type of loan. Can you emphasize that?
Yeah, so generally speaking, unsecured debt is what can be settled because there's no collateral. Now,
Got it.
as you know, in the automobile world, you have your vehicle, and a lot
Yes.
of times what happens is people fall behind.
Yeah.
The banks
Comes and takes the car. Yeah.
auction it off. And back in the day when I got started in this business,
Mm-hmm.
there's a little fun fact. If you got your car repoed,
Okay.
the bank picked it up, sold it, and you owed 20 grand. They sold it for 9.
So you're still responsible for the
11.
difference?
Yes,
Damn.
but you know what they're doing now?
Hmm.
So now they're saying, listen, we had to find you. So there's a fee for that. And they're
Wow.
saying we had to tow the car to an auction, and there's a fee for that. And then we had to sell it
So
for
they're
you.
going to add that into your balance?
By the time you're done, whatever you owe, that's what you're going to come out owing.
That's
They
crazy.
don't even, back in the day, it's called
Yeah,
a
yeah.
deficiency balance.
Yeah.
They did that. But today we're seeing more and more. It's like, how much did you owe? But they sold the car. And then
Yeah.
you look at the statement, itemized, fees. And, so we take deficiency debt
Got
because
it.
there's no more collateral.
Got it.
Your general credit cards, right? There's some
Okay.
unique situations. We look at, I wouldn't want to go through the underwriting process, but generally speaking, your credit cards, your payday loans, anything in collections, your repossessions, your medical bills,
Okay.
private student loans.
Does it matter how old is the account or it doesn't matter? It has to be active or in a collection or
So
how
another-
that part works.
Another great question.
Yeah.
The length of the delinquency will determine a couple things.
Okay.
On one side, yes, the leverage that you can have to possibly negotiate a better deal.
Got it.
But there's something called the statute of limitations.
Okay.
So every state is a little bit different. Let's just say the statute of limitations for unsecured debt is 4 years
Yeah.
in the state of California. The creditor knows they got 4 years to sue you from the last time that you were delinquent. So as the statute of limitation runs out, that creditor becomes higher risk. But past that,
Yeah.
let's just say they didn't sue you.
Okay.
So if you're asking me, well, it's 6 years old, should I even bother paying it off?
Yeah.
They can still collect on it.
Got it.
They got to call the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. They got to follow the guidelines on how and when they can call
Yeah.
you. But they can still collect on that debt, and they can continue to hurt your credit.
Got it.
But that's up to you, your choice. So yes, if you're past the lawsuit stage, so that's the only variable. So if you're within the statute of limitations, which we can talk about this other topic,
Yeah.
and I know that wasn't the complete question, but in our market, credit repair is a fancy word, like a big word, right?
Yeah.
It's like getting invited to a wedding and credit repair, like it's up there. Okay, so
That's a good way of putting.
when it comes to credit repair, I love the industry, by the way, just for the record. And the CFPB has been doing a lot of I'm not going to mention the company's name. There's no
Yeah.
reason to
Got it.
put them down,
Mm-hmm.
but they were ordered to pay back like $1.8 billion settlement, a credit repair company, two of them, and they've been banned from the credit repair industry for 10 years, both of them. And that's because they were doing everything the wrong way. Okay. If you talk to a customer and they have unsecured debt, there's no credit repair. You got to get out of debt. After you get out of debt, I like credit repair.
Got it.
Does that make sense? So how they sold it was incorrect, and they charge you legal fees. So there's a lot of regulation coming down that. So I'm not too worried about it. I just continue to educate the customer through our efforts, right? We want to be able to make sure the client understands it's not terrible, but when you do it matters.
Got it.
Because you could be spinning your wheels,
Yeah.
right? And on top of that, we're talking about statute of limitations. Half these guys don't even know what that is. So what does that mean? That means you successfully removed something from someone's credit report using the Fair Credit Reporting Act and say the information is not accurate, but then they get sued 14 months later and the sheriff serves a summons and they're like, hey, what the hell? My credit is 730 now, but you got a lawsuit in you. That's not how it works. That's not good for the client.
Yeah. So, guys, this is a lot of good information, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have questions. That's why you see the information and also the link below the YouTube podcast. And also, you can scan the QR code and just fill out a couple of questions, and Armen will get hold of you. And like he mentioned, he can do a consultation. It's free consultation, but definitely with his experience and knowledge will give you better directions what to do from there. Now, Armen, going back to the conversation, is there some stuff that you want to add that I didn't ask that you think it's important?
Pertaining to getting like just education on how it works generally. Like a lot of times we get the wrong reasons that stop us from getting ahead in life. Bad financial decisions, right?
Yes.
You made a bad decision, you got a bad loan, and it affects us for a long period of time. So what I like to encourage people to do, and I sound like a broken record, is look at your options.
Yeah.
Because here's the challenge. If you don't look at your options, now you're at everybody else's mercy. When are you going to look at it? When you fall down, when you trip financially. That's not how successful people operate. So if one thing that you want to learn from this podcast is do what financially intelligent people do, is look at your options.
And you got to ask.
You have to
Don't
ask
be
questions.
shy.
Yeah. You got to ask. So even if you're like, you know what, I'm good, I'm comfortable, but I kind of want to understand it for myself, not to hear what some guy on the internet said about what consumer credit counseling is, right? Because there's so much to unpack when it comes to debt relief alternatives.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Should I do bankruptcy? Should I do counseling?
Yeah.
Counseling is better than paying minimum payments for 30 years.
Yeah.
but okay, so is bankruptcy better? Well, depends. Do you qualify for Chapter 7? Yeah. If you qualify for Chapter 7, now you have to evaluate, do I deal with liquidating my assets and having BK on my credit for up to 10 years?
Yeah.
Or do I resolve it myself and get it out of debt in 2 to 3 years? Avoid bankruptcy. What if you're in financial services? Can you have a bankruptcy on your record?
Yeah.
There's so many variables, right?
Yeah.
So guess what? People that usually get the less attractive deal are the ones that are desperate and they're at the end. When you're proactive and you're looking at your options, you're going to make the right choice. But you can't make the right choice if you don't know what your options are.
Armen, one question just popped up in my head. Have you had a case where you helped someone, they settle down, they finish the program, and then 3 years later they come back?
All the time. So,
you know why I say that? Because you mentioned it's your habits, right? The repeating the mistakes over and over again. So I guess one of the goals I'm sure you guys have is not only help them, but tell them, hey, don't get into this mess again.
I think it's part of the process, and let me explain why I say it's part of the process. When you go through a debt resolution program, it forces you to get on a financial diet. Yeah. And that is going to shape your habits. Because let's be real, the reason you're in debt and you're over your head, you can blame the government, you can blame the Democrats, the Republicans.
You have bad habits about
your
money.
habits got you there. And they're not going to get you out. But more importantly, let's just say I wave a magic wand, but your habits don't change. You're going to be right back there. So that's
Yeah.
exactly what happens. We do our part. And while we're getting them out of debt, they're figuring out ways to actively get into debt.
Yeah.
And then they graduate. 3 years later, they call us back and they're like, hey, you guys did a great job. You helped me eliminate my 33,000. I have $20,000 of more debt. Can we please see what we can do about this?
Wow.
So it's funny, but you're absolutely right. Our program, I feel like, is going to help reshape. Is
Yeah.
it, what's the success rate? I don't know. I mean, we can only do so much. We can
Yeah.
inspire. We can't
Yeah.
force.
Yeah.
So our job is to lead them in that direction.
Yeah.
And hopefully after the second time,
Yeah.
they're a little bit more, frugal with their
Cool.
spending.
Well, Armen, I want to thank you. I know time went very fast. I want to thank you for your time. I'm sure a lot of people will have questions, and that's the reason we put the information in a program so you can, get hold of Armen, get hold of me. Any questions you have, we've both been in the finance industry for many years. I'm sure our consultation, our phone call will definitely help you to make better financial decisions. Now, Armen, before we finish, a couple of, I guess, personal questions. We grew up in the business world many, many years. And we started when we were, 18 years old? Now we're around 40, right? Damn, time goes so fast.
Exactly, at 40.
At 40. So I love asking this question, and I do it intentionally because every time you learn something new from different person's perspective, different entrepreneur's perspective. So if Armen at this age goes back and advises Armen when he was 18, what would you tell him?
For me personally, and this is a great question, and there's a lot of value to what all the other people's perspective and
Yeah.
opinion is. For me, I think the thing that cost the most to me
Yeah.
is having my emotions not educated.
Got
So
it.
when a setback happened, when something bad happened, a failure occurred, there was the downtime was just extensive. And now when you understand that life is change is inevitable. If you think everything is beautiful right now, if you think your credit is at 800 right now, things are gonna change.
Yeah.
Nothing is fixed, right? And a lot of times people fight that. And as a result, they allow emotions dictate what they do and what they decide and what they end up doing. So for me, man, the first thing I would do is I would put the book in my hands of Who Moved My Cheese and have me read that
Oh,
book. Start
yeah.
there, just to accept the fact that things are not always going to be the same.
Yeah.
The markets are going to change. Everything is going to change. But then also how I react to it and how much downtime I have.
Yeah.
Like, not meaning like, I'm not saying be a robot, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then have a
But
cold
move
heart.
fast.
You feel sad for 25 minutes. You don't need
Yeah.
to be sad for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of people do that in life. And I found myself at a younger age being stuck in places
Got it.
and not learning and moving on quick enough
Yeah.
from what I needed to learn. So
Next question. People who are just starting their career at young age, what would you advise them? How to choose a maybe career? What 2-3 element points you'll give them so they do things right from young age?
someone that's starting a career at a young age.
Yeah. Because people make changes so fast,
You got to become a student. That's the
Okay.
advice I got at 17 when I got recruited into the world of business and marketing and sales, right?
Be a student.
So you have to be a
coachable.
student. You have to be always working on yourself, right? Jim Rohn says, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. So number one thing, you got to be a student.
Okay.
Number two thing, the evidence is overwhelming. You need a coach. You need a mentor.
Nice.
There's just too much. There's
Yeah.
too much success happening.
Don't let your ego stop.
No,
Just
people
have
with
a
a big ego have small bank accounts.
yeah.
That's a fact too, right?
Yeah.
And then the ones that are super ultra successful with the big ego, that's a very small percentage.
yeah.
Generally speaking, or they've maybe developed that over time and didn't
Got
focus on other things and they focused on building that.
Yeah.
But coaching, mentorship is extremely important. Becoming a student is extremely important, and I think interchangeably, persistence and perseverance. Like you
Yeah.
can't give up. A lot of people say something and they don't finish what they start.
Yeah.
We've been doing the same thing for how many years now? let's
22
just say
years.
we pull our resume, assuming we have one,
Yeah.
and we have to make one. Let's just say we make one.
Yeah.
The last one I made was in 2001,
Yeah.
right?
I
And it
go
was
around the same
terrible.
timeline.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
But if we pull somebody else that says, "Yeah, I'm willing to do whatever it takes," okay, great. How many jobs have you worked at in the last 10 years?
Yeah.
So they work so many jobs, bro, that they are ashamed to put it on
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, "What was this gap here?"
Yeah.
So it doesn't take long to figure out what their traits are and
Yeah.
if they have that perseverance, right, and persistency.
Yeah.
But sometimes, there's bad situations. It is what
Yeah.
it is.
Cool.
So hopefully
Awesome.
that helps.
Yeah. Well, Armen, thank you again. I appreciate, your time. And this podcast, I'm sure it will bring a lot of value to those who gonna look, and make sure you share the podcast so other people can get more information from this. And I wanna, thank you for our friendship, and looking forward to do more informational, educational videos like this for everyone who needs it.
I would love nothing more. I love adding value, and maybe people can help us with questions from this one, right? Because bottom line is we want to answer questions, and if you feel like you have questions and you're not getting clear answers, I promise you, we're going to give you a clear answer. You might not like it, but we're going to give you a clear answer. So I appreciate your time, brother. Thank you for having me on. This is exciting. You did a phenomenal job here. Everything looks pristine. A great job, and it's an honor for me to be here.
Sounds good. Thank you, Armen.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for watching this episode. Please share in your pages, and I'll see you guys next time. Mais, Karibyan. Take care.